I've seen us take the worst case scenario and get it fully resolved and fully removed, and we've seen that positive outcome with members. And I've been through the process with them of, at the very beginning, frustrated, in the middle, okay, maybe, and then closer to the end, they're saying, wow, you guys really are like following through on that. And so that's one that stands out in my mind.
Welcome to RBP from the Front Lines. These episodes of ClaimTalk will be dedicated to giving our audience a behind-the-scenes look at the member experience. With each episode, we'll introduce you to real people solving real member issues every day. So join us as we highlight frontline workers supporting members through their healthcare journey on a network-free plan. What works, what doesn't, and what it takes to make these plans successful from their perspectives. I'm Stephanie Moore, and along with Amy Pellegrin, we'll be your hosts today. We've both been with ClaimDOC since 2016, and it's time that we elevate these discussions. And here with us today to do just that, we have Alex Deeter. Alex Deeter is our balance bill manager. He's been with ClaimDOC for, I believe, 6 years now. Mm-hmm. So a lot of experience, and he plays a crucial role in not only overseeing some of the processes and mentoring our balance bill specialists, but really making sure that the member experience is at the forefront of everyone's minds. So Alex, thank you for being here with us today. If you could give us a little bit more about yourself. How did you come to ClaimDOC? What's been your role from member advocate to balance bill manager and, all that good stuff?
Yeah. Well, I came to ClaimDOC in 2018, and I started as a member advocate and quickly jumped into helping with the balance bill team, working a lot with Amy and doing a lot with legal. There was a lot to learn. I came from a teaching background, so I worked in a school before that. And there's a lot that goes into helping members understand what's important about the defense that they get from the balance bill team. So that's kind of how my background plays into it. We just do a lot of really fun, interesting stuff. We help a lot of people in a meaningful way, and that's what I love about being here.
Awesome. And I know that you also have a wonderful homestead, little farm at home, and
yes.
You have chickens, and I know I've gotten eggs from you. Can
yes.
you give us a little bit more about that?
Oh, yes, about the homestead. So my wife has a business, Home Sweet Health, and she does some stuff, but we have chickens, we have eggs. My kids do a lot with collecting the eggs and shutting them in and a lot of the chores, and so that's been fun.
Also a fun fact, Alex is a very successful and talented musician. Every now and then we get to hear him play his music, and he does that a lot outside of work. And you also, was this the first year that you won the t-shirt contest?
Yes, I came really close. I got to pick pizza one year for naming one of our systems.
Okay.
So that was pretty close. But yeah, I got to give credit to Jake though too, because Jake came up with kind of part of it. And so mine's, you can't really see mine. It's on the back, but the history, the Star Wars thing. So
yes, so we have an employee t-shirt contest every year, and the one that Alex is wearing today won this year, Join the Rebellion, and then it has the scroll that you would see in the movie that tells our story on the back. So that was Alex's piece.
Yeah.
So
pretty
more fun
excited
facts
about that.
All right, so let's jump into the topic today, balance bills, of course. Yes. What's a balance bill? What and how do they arise in a plan like ours? Are they unique to plans like ours? Can you give us a little bit more about your experience with that?
So a balance bill is when a member will go in to see their provider. With the plans that we service, typically there's going to have been some communication from the member advocate first beforehand, connecting with that provider, wanting to see, hey, we want to work together with you to see our patient and to provide them the best care you can. And so when we do that, afterwards, sometimes members will actually receive a balance bill. Now, the balance bill rate, I think the last time we looked at it was less than 3%. So out of
it's currently under 2%.
Under 2%.
Our book.
Okay, but so the balance bills, while they're not unique, most claims don't actually incur balance billing. There are a lot of providers that we work with that will partner with the plan pretty well, but the reason my team is here and what we're doing to help support members is when they do have that, they don't have to go wonder what's going on with that. When I was on a United Healthcare plan, I had a balance bill myself, and I'm pretty sure it took me at least a dozen phone calls, and it took working with I think it was a translation department, why would they have my balance bill? Why would anything have been submitted there? It doesn't make any sense. But it was kind of a unique but very frustrating situation for me. So I've been through that personally myself. a big advantage to having us work with our members is that they don't have to do that. They don't have to be like, oh, I need to call, 10 different departments and figure out why it's taking leadership XYZ to do this, or, things like that on the provider side of things. So we connect with the providers, we handle the disputes, and just a bunch of different things in the process so that the members don't have to do that themselves.
Sure. Amy, do we want to touch a little bit about the fiduciary aspect and how important that is in the balance bill process?
Yeah, Alex and I were talking about this earlier, actually, and just what a unique feature this is as far as having that fiduciary protection to the members. And for the ClaimDOC solution, the members actually have the benefit written into the plan document that states that the plan sponsor will protect them in the event of a balance bill. And if we could just rewind for a second, Alex is the expert. I'm not sure we covered it. A balance bill, for those who don't actually know, is when you get billed the difference between what the plan has paid, your patient responsibility, and the billed charge. And so anytime one of our members receives one of those, the plan sponsor actually has a fiduciary obligation to protect the member. And that's where they partner with ClaimDOC, who's co-fiduciary, and Alex and his team are there to protect the member. And that's not something, it's not just a service and a contract that, says we're going to call out and try to negotiate the bill. It's actually a fiduciary protection to those individuals and to the plan. So it's a really important part. And I'd love to hear you, Alex, just talk about a little bit how maybe you use that in some of your conversations to explain either to the provider or the member how that process works.
Yeah. So to the member, what's helpful is that they understand that this is not something that, we're just going to sort of try to get it taken care of. Like, we'll maybe work on that. Like maybe. No, it's not a maybe. We can say that your plan provides balance bill protection. And I think that's really helpful for me to articulate to members, because when I say your plan provides this protection and this dispute is between the plan and the provider, and our defense remains in full effect until the account is closed. I mean, we're really going after it here. It's not just sort of maybe, like as a courtesy, maybe we'll defend it. It's no, we will defend it, and we will be here with you every step of the way. With the provider, what I want providers to understand is that you need to work with us. This is not something that the member has agreed to. This isn't something the member has signed up for. They haven't said, oh, please balance bill me, an egregious bill charge. We want to work with the provider to find a mutually beneficial arrangement for it. And so, but they need to work with us. And so it helps us to articulate to them, we really need you to work with us, through the appeal process, through just discussing the bill, through understanding the reimbursement you received. If there's any other, do we need to go talk to our claims team or our audit team or anybody else to get other weigh-in on it? It's a plan issue no matter what needs to happen.
And that provider does have a remedy. Mm-hmm. The plan isn't designed to say, hey, if you don't like the payment, too bad. Not only do we have a provider relationship team that might be able to assist with negotiations for future claims, the balance bill team may be able to negotiate resolution, or they have the right to appeal the plan.
Yeah.
So when you're having those conversations, it's not, hey, you don't have any other options. It's, hey, let's collaborate and let's try to find a solution that everybody can be happy with. However, at the end of the day, stop billing the patient. That's the most important thing. Stop billing the patient and work with us.
I want to touch base a little bit about something you said of trying to partner with providers before a balance bill arises. So I think we were talking about is our Pave the Way program. And do you think that's been helpful, having that initial conversation with the healthcare provider to introduce the plan, tell them how it works, what the reimbursement rate is, so that then it doesn't result in a balance bill. They work with us, whether it's through the open access component or through executing an agreement. What is your perspective on that?
Yeah. I think whenever you can be proactive, which I think we really are with the Pave the Way process, connecting with the provider, helping them understand what they're looking at. Sometimes people just don't know what they're looking at and they're confused by it. And then by the time a balance bill case has sort of started or has come up, at that point, the provider's either been told time and time again, here's what the reimbursement looks like, here's what we can do to resolve any questions or concerns, or if for some reason we hadn't connected with that provider through Pave the Way, it may be a point where, maybe that provider just needs a little more information about the process. So I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, so Alex, when we first hired Alex, one of the things that we were really excited about was his education background. And he touched on it earlier, but really education it's such the forefront of success in the program, and making sure that not just the members understand what's going on, but the providers as well.
And our clients as well.
And our clients. Benefits have been so ingrained in the network environment that once you do something that's not quite as traditional as that, even the providers don't always understand and just need that extra piece of advice or education on where do claims get submitted, what is this EOB state. And so Alex has really been vital in the formation of each of those steps along the way, because it's so important to provide that piece of education and taking the time and the patience to explain it, not just to the members, but to the providers as well.
Exactly. And our teams, the account management teams, implementation teams, member services teams, we have pretty regular meetings with our balance bill team and our legal team to understand exactly what you guys are doing behind the scenes, the type of communication that you're having with the employees. And then we take that back so we can, again, report back to our clients on how exactly that process is going, what kind of education might be best for their employee population. So just to, again, emphasize what Amy said about the education piece being so important. Our mantras are always open your mail and communicate. We don't know what's going on with your bill if you don't send it in, right? And the fact that they'll never be responsible for paying more than their patient responsibility on their EOB. And I think we drill that to everybody in the program, and it's super helpful. So
Yeah.
Any other feedback or insights on education and why that's important, how your team works to educate the employees, whether it's through a touch-based call or a communication piece, something along those lines?
Yeah, we communicate. So we'll communicate with members a number of different times. Obviously, what we really like to see is when those members have engaged and paved the way, they've got a member advocate. If somebody doesn't have a member advocate, they should get a member advocate. We want them to have one because member advocates are really crucial to initiating that. You've got a person at ClaimDOC. On the balance bill team, we do the same. We'll team up with member advocates and with the service coordinators, and then we'll get in touch with those members. Now, while our goal is to touch base with members at least every month, things come up and we'll be in touch with a member a couple of times throughout the month until, as we're actively working on something, or sometimes there's a wait period where we're waiting on a provider to get back to us. We try to help the members understand that really we're doing everything we can to be proactive. So to maybe dig a little bit more into that, at the very beginning when the provider pave the way happens, provider understands the reimbursement, they submit the claim. When that claim is paid out, the provider's again getting additional communication, helping them understand, here's how you work with us. And then at that point, if they have any questions and they haven't addressed them with us and they initiate the balance bill process, and then they the member's like, what's going on with this? This has been taking, a couple of months or what have you to do that. Right. We can't control, unfortunately, what the provider's doing, but we're really doing everything we can to be proactive on leading up to that point. And once we're in the process, so I would say we're trying to be proactive prior to the balance bill defense process because we work with most providers. And then we're really being active and engaged with the member throughout the whole time that they're getting balance bills. Anytime they get a bill, they get a call, they get anything, we just say, send it in to us. We really want to connect with you on that. We'll call whoever we need to at the provider. We'll talk to whatever department internally we need to, if we need something from an account manager or the plan. There's a lot of different things that happen. And so just that communication from the patient's really critical to that.
How many of the bills that we receive from members actually turn out to be balance bills? If you could put a percentage or a number to that.
Well, so two ways to look at that. If you look at the overall claims, it was less than 2%.
Less than 2%.
Less than 2% when you look at claims. When you look at bills, the balance bill team actually verifies, I'd say it's probably half.
Okay.
Half of what we do. And we have two really awesome people, Aaron and Brandy, who are helping do the verification, and they're digging in, sinking their teeth into these bills and figuring out what's going on. And a lot of the time, about half the time, it's not a balance bill. It's a question or a confusion on the provider's part, or it may be something that just we need to connect with another department to figure out the next steps for it.
And we manage that as well. We handle those calls to the providers to resolve whatever the other issue may be.
Within ClaimDOC. So we're not saying this isn't a balance bill and then saying, okay, member, take that. Now you get to make a dozen phone calls. We're not doing that. We're connecting them back with the member advocate, or someone on our team is handling whatever, depending on the situation, what's appropriate. But we're connecting them with a person because, again, you send in a bill. We don't want someone to have to go through all that heartache and frustration. We will look into it. We'll do the research. We do it all day, every day, so.
Right. Yeah. I think you make a good point as to how connected all of the different departments are. So the balance bill team may identify a situation where it's not really a balance bill, or maybe there's a different issue. Maybe there's a contract on file and there was a processing issue. And so those communications that you both have mentioned are so important to the process running efficiently as well. Can you imagine if you were not in-house here and were trying to manage the balance bills for a group and didn't have access to all those other departments, how difficult that would be?
Yes. I can turn around, just walk over to my team, walk to anyone in provider relations. Appeals is, a stone's throw away. Account managers right down the way. So it's pretty easy to access people and to get what we need.
And the other thing I wanted to mention is you said earlier about, how Brandy and Aaron really dig into the bills. I think some people maybe who haven't had their own balance bill situation, or maybe they haven't had ongoing medical care where there are numerous dates of service and bills that get generated, wouldn't appreciate just how confusing those bills can be. There are some systems that do a running bill, and your bill doesn't really outline the dates of service very clearly. So these really are puzzles that need to be pieced together.
Yes.
And if our team isn't doing it, then the members have to do that themselves. And it's really not a simple process at all times.
Yeah, it's definitely not. And I always think of 75 comes to mind because I think that's the number that probably has been tossed out for, when if I talk to Aaron or I say, what's going on? And they say, I'm working on verifying a 75-page bill. You might have legitimate balance bills in there. You might have claims that aren't submitted. You might have a No Surprises Act claim that needs to be handled a totally different way through that process. You might have a contracted claim. So they're really, when I say dig in, they're really getting down to those details and figuring out where to take it.
I mean, even having the insurance experience for me to dig into those things as well. And I mean, as account managers, we still do it on behalf of some members, but then for your own personal things, having to decipher balance bills and pulling the right EOBs, and it can be a lot. So the benefit of having this team for our members is top notch. I always love to brag about you guys on our prospective client calls and our implementation calls, because it really is second to none compared to, other health plans, as you've experienced with a traditional carrier. The support that you have, the one point of contact and the person that's going to get you through that issue that arises. So excellent. All right, so this wouldn't be RBP from the front lines if we didn't talk about some of our member challenges or memorable stories. Are there some that come to mind to you of where you and your team played a critical role in the member experience, or a particularly tough balance bill case that you can tell us about?
We had this member who had a really difficult provider that we were working with, and the provider sent them to collections. They impaired their credit improperly, and we ended up through the process working even with the Department of Labor to get this rectified. And while it took time and it took some education, as you can imagine, the member at the beginning of it was pretty upset about having had this happen. Yeah. They shouldn't have it happen. In accordance with, so there's a couple of things. Fair Debt Collection Practices Act is really important. Agencies aren't supposed to be impairing credit if they haven't been able to validate the debt. And so while a collection agency might, in most cases, get away with that, even potentially, if they issued a credit impairment, someone doesn't know what they're looking at. This actually has happened to me before too, long before ClaimDOC, where I was credit impaired for something I shouldn't have been. And so the member experienced this credit impairment, contacted us, got out their frustration with us. We took it. We're here. We're listening. We're helping. But through our communication with the provider, with the collection agency, and with the Department of Labor, we were able to get that totally removed from their credit report, totally reversed, all the balance bills with that provider addressed and done with. And so at the end of the process, the member came back and said, I'm going to do a happy dance. You guys have been working with me on this for quite some time, and it's off my credit report. I'm not seeing anything there. Because what we don't do is we don't say, oh, you've been credit impaired. Let's just go ahead and pay that. And then, but by the way, it's going to leave it on your credit report, and then you still have it there for 7 years, even though it's paid, it's marked as paid. So I think what makes me confident in our process is that we can actually do that I've seen us take the worst case scenario and get it fully resolved and fully removed. And we've seen that positive outcome with members. And I've been through the process with them of, at the very beginning, frustrated. In the middle, okay, maybe. And then closer to the end, they're saying, wow, you guys really are like following through on that. And so that's one that stands out in my mind that we've worked on.
And two things I want to highlight there that also tie into member education is this is a process, not an event.
Yes.
Like you said, we don't just pay it and let it sit on your credit or use plan funds to get rid of the issue. We stand behind our reimbursement, and we want to partner with healthcare providers who want to partner with us as well, and trust the process. Because we get the members that are coming in new to the plan, and it takes a little bit for them to connect with that member advocate, connect with the balance bill specialist, and really have that peace of mind that we are in their corner and that we are working on it on their behalf, even though it may be taking longer than what they maybe hope for. So thank you for highlighting that story.
Yeah, and I think that, you emphasize that not everybody's going to experience that, right? It's a very, very small percentage of individuals who even experience a balance bill, let alone a balance bill that escalates and maybe there's some bad actors involved or doesn't get resolved as quickly as maybe the member would like. But if you don't have those programs in place and the specialists that are there to hold the member's hand through that long process, then it is going to escalate into something that the employer's not equipped to manage, or maybe turn them off of a program like this altogether. And you're going to walk away from significant savings over maybe an isolated event that the services that we provide can remedy. So one of the things I was thinking about is how, there are competitors of ours who offer balance bill services. And I don't think that you can describe them as defense, not just because they don't have the fiduciary obligations that we do, but also they don't necessarily have the thoroughness of the services, right? We see things through to the end, like you were talking about with this member. And, a lot of times it's really just a form of negotiation. So whether you're settling claims just to get rid of them, not thinking through a big picture. Well, we had a claim that we did settle. The claim was settled. It was a balance bill, and it was settled for a fair amount. The payment was made. They deposited the amount. And for some reason, the collection firm did not dismiss the claim. They allowed the case to proceed. The member was unaware of it. We were unaware of it at the time. And I think it was probably 2 or 3 years later, she was trying to do a renovation on her house and found that they had a lien on her property. Wow. And it was a very unique situation. I've never seen anything like that happen before, because the law firm that was involved on behalf of the hospital could have had some pretty severe consequences for letting that happen. But what ClaimDOC did is we hired local counsel and moved to enforce the settlement. So again, sometimes even a settlement doesn't fully resolve, or you think it's going to resolve, and it might creep up later because either mistakes happen or just bad actors are involved, or maybe it's just sloppy work, right? We don't know exactly what the intent of was this, but we were able to jump in and remedy the situation very quickly. I think we got it done in a couple weeks and help that member lift the lien. And in a different scenario, I'm not sure that those services would have been there to go back and ensure that everything was rectified correctly. So again, it was another extreme example, but why those full services are so important.
Worst case scenarios, but knowing that, again, you have a team in your corner to manage from a simple phone call to a provider through getting a lien taken away from your property is important. Alex, is there anything else that you would like to add today? Anything that we didn't ask that you would like to talk about, tell our audience about?
Yeah. I want to speak to this is a process, not an event.
Sure.
A little bit more. So I really, with the members, I like to help them understand that proactive piece of everything we're doing on the front end. When we're in the midst of communicating with a provider, I think it's helpful to know Providers have a number of different departments within their organization who handle different aspects. Like I shared about the 12 phone calls earlier, there may be 12 departments, there may be 5, and it can vary quite a bit, but they don't necessarily communicate. What's nice is I can kind of turn around if I have a contract question and be like, hey, Justin, or hey, Brad, or I can ask someone for assistance pretty quickly. And when the departments are disconnected in the way that we find a lot of health systems are, that can contribute to those delays. And so with the members, I think by us telling them, again, just send us anything you receive, even if you're getting a bill and you shouldn't, and the provider, it's an instance where they can't control that they're doing it. They have an auto-generated billing system. You wouldn't necessarily know a lot of these things unless you talk to us and got some of the details from our team. So give us a call if you have any questions. Those are really important things. If a member has a bill, if you have a question, if you have something you think is a balance bill but you're not sure, chances are we're going to handle it anyway if it's a no surprise act claim or if it's a contracted claim, right? So the point is, give us a call, send us an email, send us copies of whatever you get. We're happy to look at it. It is a process, but you're not alone in the process. We're there with you every step of the way.
All excellent points, Alex. Thank you so much again for all the great stories and all the insight, and for joining us on the podcast today, again, to give our audience a behind-the-scenes look at how we manage the balance bill process and how we educate members and just the importance of the fiduciary role that we play. So thank you, audience, for tuning in today to the RBP from the Front Lines episode with Alex Deeter, our balance bill manager. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.